G'day guys, Craig and Kaz back again from This is Raleigh, and we're heading into a new year, which is a popular time to make some changes, start afresh, and we're excited to have a guest with us today to help us just do that.
Yes, that's right. I'm really excited. New year, new life. So Sarah Valeri of Hello Clutter is here with us today. And I know Sarah from our Women's Social Club group for some time now and have been following her on IG since then, which is, Instagram, everyone, short for Instagram. And I love her tips for helping people remove the excess so they can finally live free. And as her tagline says, she says hello to your clutter so you can say goodbye to it. So welcome, Sarah, and tell me, just how does someone have a passion for saying hello to clutter?
I know it's not a common one. Thank you guys for having me. So I started out my life as like a decently organized kid, but also, the nights when you just don't want to put away your laundry and you sleep with it all on your bed, like that was still my life. But I ended up studying education, and I was a 6th grade math teacher for 3 years in downtown Raleigh.
Wow.
And I realized I didn't have a passion for teaching kids math. But when it came to, especially to middle school, what could make them successful was if they could stay organized. They're keeping up with 8 different classes and trying to juggle friendship and just the awkwardness that is your teenage years. And so I realized just really helping them stay organized and keeping things together was something I was really passionate about. And I found out professional organizing was a thing like 3 years afterwards, and after I had left teaching. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, the thing that I want to do for all of my friends and family, and like my second date with my husband was unpacking his apartment because I found out he had moved. And I was like, wait, you're living in boxes? Can I come and go through all of your stuff?
Oh my gosh, she's like, she's a keeper.
He's kind of like, what am I getting myself into here?
At least you knew right off the bat. And I found out it was a career and kind of started it as a side business back in 2019. And then earlier this year in 2021, or I guess whenever this comes out in 2021, I took it full time. So it's been a really awesome journey.
That's so cool. And how does, you mentioned professional organizing. I'm just curious as to know what is behind that, because I haven't actually heard of it as a profession before. So how do you get into it? How do you learn it? Tell us a little bit about that.
That's a great question. So it's not a very regulated space right now. So there are certifications that you can get. If you guys know of Marie Kondo, like she has a certification that you can take.
Oh, wow.
So you can do all of these things. But for me, it was more learning on the job. And that's where I started out with just friends and family of learning how to teach them how to walk through the process and feel comfortable with it. And so then those skills are what I was able to apply to when I was doing it more, quote, professionally with a client and in a paid situation.
Yeah, so you got to find people that like to hoard stuff and have a lot of clutter stuff and then start from there.
Yeah, and who are open to the opportunity to let it all go.
Yeah, so I guess we all suffer from this to various degrees. What does clutter tell you about someone's personality? Or
that's a good question.
That's a really great question. I think it honestly tells more about us as a society than it does a person individually.
Sure.
Because I think we're told we should buy things and we need stuff to be happy. You want to be happy, you need to go buy this. You want to be happy, you need to go and have what your neighbor has, right?
Yeah.
So
keeping up with.
Yep, absolutely. And so I think it just kind of shows of the culture that we live in right now that we need to consume, and to do the opposite is very taboo. And that's where I hear, some people will be like, oh no, I like my clutter. Thank you. I don't need your help. I'm like, that's great. If you love the things you're surrounded by, then that's not a problem. It's whenever you're feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated and stressed every time you walk through your front door, that's where we have an issue, and we want to confront that.
And how do people come to the understanding that the clutter is helping them feel that way? Because I feel like some people just become immune to it and don't realize that.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I come into play, and where I'm really glad that there are mediums like Instagram and like this podcast where people can have that aha light bulb moment, because nobody is really teaching it, except for the people in the minimalism space or the professional organizing space. That's where it's kind of I didn't know that I could let those things go. And that's why I really like more of the teaching aspect of it. I think the organizing is super important, and I love the pretty bins and making it all look nice. Yes, that's great. But I think the why behind it and the education around it and just getting more information out is more important than anything else.
Yeah. So when you talk about clutter, what are we talking about? Exactly all the physical stuff like furniture, books, shoes, clothes, like all the things. Like
it can be anything. So clutter to me is anything that doesn't add value to your life. So anything that's just in the way of you being able to do the things that make you truly happy.
Yeah.
Because every single thing that you own, it not only takes up space in your house physically, right? We have to store it somewhere, but we also store it mentally. We have to think about, oh, I own that. This is where I stored it. This is how I want to store it. So not only do we see physical clutter, but we feel that mental clutter as well, because it's just having to keep track of all of this stuff. So any of those things that we have that we totally forget about and we come across 5 years later, those are the things that are considered clutter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we know how freeing it can be because we've moved houses how many times into different countries, and every time we pack up and move, we're like, this is a great time to declutter, but then we start accumulating again.
Yeah, and I think that's just been our life to travel, so we're minimalists for sure. And I understand the impact clutter has on your mental health, because I know when the clutter starts to build around us because we're not used to it, I start to like get anxious, and because I feel that overwhelmed, like you're saying, you know, it's not adding value to my life, but it's there in my face and I need to do something with it. So I think, you know, it really has such a huge impact on our psyche, and it's this, as you said, mental, physical, just having to control the stuff. And what does this stuff even mean anyway? Some of it's just so irrelevant to our lives.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just your house, but it's like your car, even your classroom.
Everywhere.
Did you have a clutter-free classroom?
I did have a clutter classroom, and I've been
because I've seen some really messy ones, and I'm like
your wife's.
Her desk. Like you walked into, was it your desk?
It was my desk.
You walk into a desk in a classroom, you literally can't see the desk.
Oh, that might have been Mary's desk too. I think hers
or your
was
co-worker.
cluttered.
But
we
or
were all
somebody's
cluttered.
desk. I mean, like, there's not even, you can't even see it. And I guess that's like some people's houses, you can't even see the floor. Like it's just full of stuff.
Absolutely. And I'd be interested. So you were saying when you have things kind of start building up, you start to feel panic. So there's something called a clutter threshold. So kind of like the amount of clutter that you can stand before you start like freaking out and rage donating everything that you own.
Yes,
right?
rage donating. That's a good term.
Where you're just like, I need it out. And that's really interesting when people get married or start sharing their life with someone, because if you have two completely different clutter thresholds where like, my husband can deal with a little bit more mess. I kind of let him, his office is his space. I'm not going to go in and just mess with all of his stuff. But his room, if I tried to sit in there and work, I would feel so overly stimulated. I'm like, there are papers here. Like, what do these papers mean? What should I do with them? And so trying to figure out and get that to mesh well between couples, and when you throw kids into the mix, it can be a tough thing to do. But having that understanding of your spouse or of your significant other definitely can help support them in wherever they are in that journey too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a Virgo, and apparently we like to stay organized and clean, but
I'm not sure that's correct.
No, consistently not. But ours is probably an excuse, but you know, you just get busy and caught up with everything else in life, and it's just like you put it on the to do later list, and you know, if you got work stuff to do or take the kids somewhere, and you just, you know, you don't want to see my closet, that's for sure. Or even my work desk as well. Like I'm a bit hypocritical complaining about that, but yeah. You go through phases of tidying things up, organized, and then just leaving stuff everywhere.
Yeah, it's a constant thing to really have to be conscious of. But the nice thing is if you declutter wholly and fully in the beginning, if you truly let those things go, and then you make a very conscious effort to make sure you don't let extra things into your life, or you are reevaluating, you know, pretty regularly, that's how you really can keep it away. But it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding, and the freedom that comes from it. I mean, that's what I preach, right? And that's what I like to practice too. I walk into my home and I know what I own, and I don't feel overwhelmed with random stuff here and there.
Yeah, totally. Like when we come home from a day of doing business stuff or from vacation, we hate coming home to a messy house.
Oh yeah, it's my biggest tip. When you leave for a vacation, clean your house before you leave, because it's just so nice to come home and it's sparkling. Yeah. So what do you say? Like, it sounds to me that anyone who's thinking of, it's a new year, people want a new life, they're ready to change. So this is the perfect time to start this journey. And if someone has never been here before, it sounds like there's actually, before you go to your cupboard and you start, okay, I'm going to organize this and that, it sounds like there's a lot of work that has to actually be done before you start that process. So you kind of have to look at what's important to you and why. So what do you suggest to people who've never done anything like this before and they want the new year to start and they're going to dive in and do it?
Yeah, I think like you were saying already, figure out your why. Why is it that you really want to do this? Because your why is what will keep you moving forward when you're sitting in a pile of your clothes on the floor and you're like crying because you're overwhelmed and you hit like a nerve, right? So we always want to figure out what our why is. And then the other thing that I recommend is to lower your expectations. We put so much pressure on ourselves, especially as women, to have the perfect house, the perfect things, and just to somehow we're expected to know how to do it all and just be Wonder Woman all the time.
Yeah.
And like, yes, we are amazing. We are capable of doing hard things, but just know it's, there's no finish line, even though it's the new year and this is the time where we're like, yes, I'm going to do this and it's going to be awesome. Like, it's okay to take your time through it, but it is also important to set boundaries so that you don't turn into, oh, that's something I'm going to put on my list and then I won't ever end up getting back to it, right? So it's okay to set things of what you want to accomplish, but don't try to burn yourself out. Don't say that in the month of January, by the end of the month, everything's going to be exactly what it's supposed to be. It took you time to accumulate things, so it's going to take you time to let it go as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like prioritizing things too. I mean, it could be like you want to downsize your house to save money because you get caught up in wanting a bigger house and then you got to fill the space with furniture and what have you. But yeah, or it could be like moving out of state or overseas like we did. And like I remember we used to create 3 different piles, like throw out, donate, or sell. I don't know if that's
perfect.
Good.
And then
keep, donate.
Yeah. Four boxes: throw out, keep, donate, sell.
And then we would end up in the rage donation because, and I want to talk to you about it at some stage through this podcast, but it's such a mentally draining experience that you get to halfway through or beyond and you're like, I just can't deal with this anymore. Nothing means anything to me anymore. And I think that's the funny place to get into when you start this. You think, I need to keep everything because it's so important and I might need it. And then by the end of it, you're like, I don't need any of this and it can all go.
Yeah, but it's funny too, like with stuff we've bought 10, 20 years ago, whether it's a souvenir from a trip or clothes that way out of fashion. And you're like, why did I ever buy this? And why did I ever think this was in?
Why did we think ruffle skirts were a good thing?
I guess throw it in. You can throw it in the attic. We don't have attics in Australia. But throw it in the attic over here or basement if you have a basement, and you just put it away and forget about it for 10 years. Well, and the other thing is, well, if you haven't worn something for 6 months, get rid of it. Is that?
Yeah, everybody can set their own rules and what might work for them. I like to do the hanger trick where you turn your hangers the opposite way, so then you can physically see which ones you have and haven't worn. So like put them all the wrong way. And then when you actually wear it, turn it the right way. And then I usually like to do the 90-90 rule. So instead of thinking of seasons, because our awesome, wonderful fashion has now turned what we used to have only 2 seasons, right? Warm and cold. Now we have 52 seasons. Yeah. Where every single week the fashion industry is turning out more things that they say that we need to have, which isn't really true. But so I like to think of 90 days. So the past 90 days and the future 90 days. That will cover any season that I might have, right? With the warm weather and then the cold weather coming up. And every 90 days or so, I reevaluate what I have in my closet of, did I actually wear that in the past 90 days? And if I'm being honest, am I going to wear that vest that I wore last Christmas? Am I really going to wear it this year or not, right? And it's just having to be honest with yourself. And that accountability is what's really, really tough because when you're standing in front of all of your clothes or in front of all of your things, you'll trick yourself and say, oh, I used that last month. No, you didn't. That has been there for who knows how long. I see the dust that's on that. That's telling me we have not used it in the last month, right? Yeah.
Why do you think people hold on to things so much?
Fear.
Yeah.
I think we put all of this emotional, and we put just so much value into these things, and we're afraid of letting them go. Like we actually have this emotional attachment to stuff because as humans, we're just craving connection. We're craving something that anchors us to this world and that we'll be remembered by. And we think that if we don't have enough things, or we don't have anything that helps me connect to someone else, or if I let go of this thing, all of my memories that go along with it are gone too. And it's just we want to hoard and we want to keep because it makes us feel a sense of security, even though that's not really there. It's a trick that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
What about money side of things? Like people might think, well, I spent $50 on this item or $200 on this item, and then obviously you could sell it, but you're not going to recoup your initial outlay. So like people worry about that, you think? Like
Absolutely. But the important thing to remember is that the money was gone when you first bought the item, not when you decide that it's time to donate it or let it go.
Yeah.
And you can sell your things. You know, typically whenever I go through the process with people, I don't recommend selling because the next time I come to their house to check in and see how things are going, that pile of sell stuff is still sitting right there in the corner and hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
We're like that with our donate pile. It sits there forever.
Yep. And that's why I take donations for my clients too. So it's just out, get it out. Because the second you've decided you don't actually want something or it's not adding value, you won't change your mind. But seeing it sitting there, you might say, oh, I'll go ahead and let this creep back into my life. But when it comes to spending the money on things, right, and feeling the sense of guilt of, oh, this was so expensive, I don't want to, just let it go now, like that was such a waste. It did add value to your life, hopefully, for some reason or another. And we got the memories with it. We got the use out of it. And that was a beautiful thing. And we should be grateful for that experience. But then being able to let it go and have someone else be able to have that same experience with that item. Because if it's just collecting dust, it's not worth anything anymore.
They're really, I think, really important things for people to understand, just knowing we have done this so many times. And I do find it's a traumatic experience because it forces you to look at yourself and who you're showing up to be, where you might be being neglectful or over-consuming or overindulgent, not caring about things, not aligning with your values. All of this comes up. And it's happened to me every single time we've done this. And I go through this process of, oh my gosh, I wasted money, like the guilt you're talking about, I'm such a bad person, look at all this that I'm, and all of that's going through you when you just say, I want to declutter, and you don't realize you're going to hit this awful traumatic experience.
The spiral hits, right?
So how do you deal with that side of it when you're working with clients? I'm sure that you're seeing a lot and trying to guide them through it.
Yeah. I sometimes feel like a therapist, even though I'm very much so not. I'm not certified to do that. And I'm very honest with people that I'll give you what I know I've experienced and like what I can help other people through. But I think that's why a lot of people want to have me there is because it's a comfort. It's someone who, I'm a third party person. I don't know the ins and outs of your life. Letting me into your space is definitely a very intimate thing. It's a relationship I get to build with my clients and understand where they're coming from. I don't think that they're bad people for having stuff. I have stuff. Stuff is not bad. It's just sometimes you sit there and you feel that overwhelm, and to have someone in your corner and know it's okay. We can decide, we want to keep these things or we can come back to them later. Or, sometimes you just need someone to tell you, hey, your life is not going to dramatically change if you let go of that t-shirt. You're going to be okay. Everything's all right. And it sounds silly to say that, right? Of you feel like this whole pull towards something, some inanimate object. We're not meant to have feelings towards our things, but we do. And so just having somebody there to help them and say it's okay. We're going to be all right. And we can move forward. You kind of just, you build that muscle up over time.
I can really see the benefit of having someone, as you said, third party helping you through it. Because, we haven't quit because we've had to move. So we've been forced to. But I can see how others would quit. I'll just take the clutter.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of unique because we've moved and packed up so many times. But if someone lived in the same house for 20, 30 years, it would be easy to pile up the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So who do you work with? Like people that live in a house or go into businesses? Like what range of clients?
Yeah,
do you have?
I've homes, apartments.
Mhm.
I have worked with a few teachers in their classrooms before.
I love
There you
that.
go.
So that was really fun. Get myself back in that space
yeah.
again.
Yeah, wow.
Passion.
Yeah, and I've done, businesses. I helped with a local nonprofit, No
Mhm.
Woman, No Girl, as well recently. Really, any space that needs to be a little bit more functional, and then
Mhm.
also being able to find what you need. Like that's where
Yeah.
the organizing comes into
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
It's called Hello Clutter. I think clutter is the bigger issue than organization typically is, because the less stuff you have, the easier it is to find what you need,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of comes with it.
Yeah.
But anytime that people need to find just a more functional space and figure out what that might look like. that's
Yeah, it's
something
pretty
I help
endless
with.
actually, because I used to work in construction. And my
Yeah.
boss's truck and van, the tools and materials and crap, you could not find anything.
Mm.
And having to unpack and pack up every day, it was a mess. So you could,
And think about all the
tradespeople,
time
like-
that you could have saved, and
I
like
know.
if that had just been a little
Productivity.
more streamlined.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's even moved into our lives now through devices. Like I was just this morning before this podcast going crazy. I'd reached my clutter threshold because my computer is maxed out, my phone is maxed out, nothing is working. And it's like, I have got to sit down and declutter and organize this.
Oh, damn apps. How many apps do you have? Like that I never even touch.
I know. Yes. And we're once again the fear, right? We're afraid of if we delete this app, what if there was something on it that I needed? Or we delete these photos and then I can't find where I backed them up or whatever it might be, right? So it continues, and we're bombarded every day. I can't remember the number now, but like the number of marketing emails that go out that the average person receives is bonkers. It's insane. It's just we're constantly thrown all of this information and all of this stuff, and it's I don't know how you can catch a break from it sometimes.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And I guess there's another value of decluttering your home, because then at least, you've got one place where you can come, your home, after your busy work day, and you can just kind of relax and know where everything is and know that you're not surrounded by stuff.
And that's what I think our homes are meant to be. They're meant to be our place where we're supposed to be able to rest, that I can sit in my house and not worry about all the things and the stuff that I have to do, right? And that's what's supposed to be our homes. That's what they were created for. And yet they're just becoming this other source of more stress and more anxiety when we've got plenty of it externally.
Yes.
We don't need to let it into our houses either.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on the individual, but what are some common items or things that people tend to over accumulate in their houses?
Clothes is a big one for women, especially. Women actually only wear 20% of the number of clothes that they own.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Because they always want a big closet when looking for a house.
Oh,
or
right. That's
something.
number
Those
one.
home
It's
shows.
it's the
Yes.
kitchen and the closet, like
Mhm.
the key area. I mean, that's is that stereotyping? Sorry,
But it is true, right?
It's
And
true,
it seems stereotypical to say, like women have a lot of clothes, but the numbers show it, and we're not wearing a lot of them,
but
right?
men too. Like
Yeah,
I like clothes. Like
Yeah.
I love shoes and
I think you have
hats
more
and-
clothes than me,
You think?
to be
I
honest.
don't know.
yeah.
We could maybe do a item by item checklist when we get home.
We'll get Sarah over.
That sounds
But I wear all my clothes. No, maybe 25%.
Yeah, see, we don't, and it definitely doesn't have to just be women. It's just most of the studies are around that part, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, usually a lot of clothes that we have.
Mhm.
Books are huge
Mhm.
because books are a thing that we definitely feel emotion towards because they make us feel a certain way, and then we hold that book in our hands even if we would know we will never pick it up to read again. It makes it so hard to let it go because we feel drawn to those characters. We feel like they were our friends.
Yeah.
So books are a really hard thing, or that's something that a lot of people have a lot of. And then from there, it just kind of depends. Every home is different. Every person is different for what they like. You know, I've organized with people who have tons of magic cards. And those, I was like, I never thought I would get to organize magic cards, and I got to.
Yeah.
And, toys are huge.
Yes.
The average American kid has 300 toys and only plays with 12.
Oh,
Wow.
see, I just want to vomit when I hear that. It's
Oh.
kind of like,
I know, because when our kids are 14 and
man,
10 now,
that's
but when they were
tough.
younger, like you buy them, all these toys and stuff, and it's just terrible. So much plastic, and then they'd play with it for a couple of weeks and then ignore it. Or you could just give them a cardboard box and they could
They
create
get it
something for
down.
hours. I mean, like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
But even I felt trauma recently when we moved house just recently, and we decluttered and got rid of the majority of their toys. And within that was an American Girl doll. And I was like, oh, no, that's like my grandbaby. We can't get rid of it. And the girls are like, Mum, we don't play with it anymore. And I'm like, no, I think we should keep my grandchildren.
And back to the financial side of things, they're expensive
Yes.
toys. Not just to buy the doll, but all the accessories that go
yeah.
with it. Because I remember, and then the activities, like we're sitting in New York City at the American Girl doll store and they're getting their hair blown and nails done and all
You can do
like
that?
a human.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
I did
that's
not
a
know
thing.
about
That's
that.
a massive thing. They have a salon in the.
You can have lunch with them. They can get
There's a
their hair done,
cafe.
their
Oh,
fingernails
it's
painted,
crazy.
and you can get it. Like your child can get it alongside their doll.
Oh my gosh.
That's an investment. That's not only like
Yeah.
200
That
plus
is a
just for the
grandbaby.
doll.
I don't blame you for not wanting to get rid of that one.
Yeah, 200 plus just for the doll, and the clothes and accessories is like, wow.
Yeah, that is a lot. I think the important thing to remember there is that it's okay to keep things, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's where we don't have, I think it's important to be ruthless when we are decluttering, but also give yourself grace and remember there is space to keep things that truly mean something to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if that doll really does mean something to you and that's something that you would want to share with a future generation or something that would bring you joy to look back on, then that's great. That's okay. I want you to experience that joy. That's what we're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
We want happiness.
Yeah.
But what we don't want is keeping things just because of all the money we spent on them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if that's just going to sit in a box and no one's going to look at little American Girl doll friend for another 30 years, could another little girl get
Find the
more
joy.
joy out of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
The passing along of the joy. I like
Mhm.
that. It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned clothes as the number one item probably. So family with kids, like we've got 2 daughters, 4 years age gap. Obviously there's stuff that our eldest daughter grows out of and we keep it to pass it down. Where do you draw the line with how much of that you keep or donate or sell? Keeping in mind the 4-year gap and maybe the changes in fashion and stuff.
Yeah. The nice thing about fashion is everything comes back.
That's true.
But when it comes in style is just a nice way to say soon to be out of style. So when shopping initially for your eldest, I would say try to stick to things that aren't necessarily in fashion at the moment, but things that are never going to go out of style.
Yeah.
You know, t-shirts, jeans, basic items, they're not going to go anywhere.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to set whatever your space boundary is. And it looks different for everyone. Everyone's home is a different size and what you might have able to store might be different. But whether it be, one bin that you keep for, a certain age range, then great. Whatever we can fit in here is what we would let pass down to the next. And if it doesn't fit in there, we can go ahead and let that bless another family in the meantime.
Sure.
But it's important to remember too that our homes are meant to be living space and not storage space.
Yeah.
So we don't want to just be living amongst storage. But if you have the room for it, then okay, great. Just set a boundary so it doesn't turn into chaos.
Yeah.
I
And just
like that.
because we
They're
have
good
2
tips.
daughters, I mean, doesn't mean their fashion sense could be completely different. And you want them to keep their individual personality as well. So
It goes back to that fear around money.
Yeah.
Again, I spent money on this. I shouldn't be frivolous. I should hold on to this so I can pass it down and save money that way.
I do it all the time because
Yeah.
when Clara, our 14-year-old, was going through stuff, she's throwing out all this good quality stuff. I'm like, Savannah can wear this. Like,
Stop
what are you
that.
doing? Like, all these good, cool hoodies and shoes and stuff. I'm like, no.
Well, I guess their children are kind of good declutterers because they haven't developed that identity and stuff yet. And of course, they don't have the financial kind
value,
of understanding. The
That
value
was the other
there.
thing was like, you
Yeah.
spent good money on this. And she's like, just throwing this out. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Kids I organized with a kid a couple months back, and I was so impressed with how quickly we got through everything because they don't have that emotional attachment. To them, it is just stuff.
And
It's just things,
shorter
right?
history
Yeah.
to it too. I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they don't have that financial attachment to it. But I think that can be a beautiful thing because it kind of shows us it doesn't matter how much we spent on something. Just because it was expensive doesn't mean it was adding value or that they could get the use out of it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So
that's a great perspective.
I think that kind of shows us too, for some reason along some period, some time, the shift from buying like used products, like thrifting, turned into a bad thing of like, oh, I don't want to thrift. I want brand new. And there's nothing wrong with brand new. That's fine. But why we have this like negative connotation towards reusing something or getting another value out of it, where that's something that we could definitely save money on, whether it be thrifting or on Facebook, you can find buy nothing groups, groups that literally all you have to do is say, I'm looking for kids' clothes age 14. Like, does anyone have anything? And people will just give their things away.
I love that.
And same thing if we're, someone's decluttering in their home and they'll post on there, hey, I have X, Y, and Z. If you want it, it's completely free. You're not allowed to buy. You're not allowed to send, like, you're not supposed to do exchanges of any kind. It's just figuring out ways that you can bless people with the things that you don't need that they might find value in.
I love that. That's a great resource.
Yeah, awesome.
We'll have all of this in the show notes too for anyone listening. Everything we've talked about will go in there.
Yeah.
So that's a great resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after all the decluttering, I guess the next really important thing for people to know how to do is to stop it from creeping back. And I think the whole organization thing is really important. And I think there are so many different types of people in the world. And I don't know if you know Jonathan Fields, but he's Good Life Project, and he has this new thing out called Sparketypes, I think. And I thought of you when he was going through on one of his podcasts, and he said, I can't remember the name of this type, but one of them is a person who can just see how to put things into systems and can just look at something. So for you, you can walk into a room, see the clutter and know how to organize it and put it into things. Where there are other people like me, I cannot do that and I get overwhelmed by it. But if someone were to come and do it for me and teach me what to do, I could follow it. And then you have our youngest daughter who couldn't put anything into organization and probably couldn't follow what you set up for them. So how do you deal with that? And I'm guessing the people who are working with you really don't know how to organize.
Yeah, typically, or at least they don't know the right things to spend money on. And like a lot of the times it just like some people will hire me for virtual sessions where they're like, I know I need stuff, but I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to try, how many times do you go to Target or to the Container Store and bring it home and then you're like, oh, this doesn't fit in my space, right? Or it doesn't end up being functional. So thankfully I have a lot of practice with some of those items and I know what will or won't be useful. But a lot of it, that's where it is. I don't know how people do it so generally, where they can just say, oh, every pantry needs this one bin. I'm like, no, because what if you don't have stuff that fits in there or whatever it might be. So that's where I definitely take a more personalized approach. But figuring out what my clients need, and that's where once all this extra stuff is gone, whatever we have left, being able to walk through and just, what do you need access to on a regular basis? Great. Here's a bin that's going to work for that and in your budget. And just trying to take them through that as seamlessly as possible. And that's where usually they kind of trust me on that end of, I'm not going to steer you wrong. I don't want you to, so many people waste money on just organizing bins that don't end up actually working for them.
I've done
I was just going to say,
times.
and it's not a matter of buying a pretty bin or a new bookcase or putting shelves up in the garage or whatever. Like you actually got to like remove items from your space.
Get rid of the excess and then we'll figure out how to make it functional and make sure that you can actually use the things and remember what it is that you have when the time comes.
Do you find majority of people, once you have the system set up for them, do you find majority of them can follow it, or do they get to a point soon enough where everything is just clutter and overwhelming again?
It depends on the mindset and how much work people put into it. And that's something that I definitely talk through when I'm working one-on-one with clients, of teaching them, how can we keep this away now? How do we make sure the clutter doesn't creep back in? How, like, questions to ask yourself before you decide if you want to buy something, helping them set up those boundaries. So it really comes down to if they can continue to live through those boundaries. And sometimes it takes a little extra practice. Sometimes I go and then 6 months later, everything still looks exactly like the day that I left. And then sometimes we fall back into our old patterns. We're used to buying and we're used to just consuming. So I try to leave that as an open door of, if you still need me, I offer like maintenance packages, because sometimes one thing I think it might work for you, and then it doesn't end up actually working out. So let's swap that out with something different. Like let's come back in and reevaluate what didn't go right there.
What a great service.
Yeah.
So what's a good rule for the fashion side of things? Because I know it's hard for me. I walk into a sports store and I want all the things. Is it like the 24-hour rule? Like,
okay. Oh, I love some good rules. Oh, we're getting into it. I'm a rule follower. Okay.
Rules help.
So when it comes to buying, I have what's called the 30-30 rule. So you get to set what your number is. But for me, if it's worth more than $30, I have to wait 30 hours before I can buy it. So 30-30, nice and even there, right?
All right.
And you get to send what works for you, right? Like if $30 might be too low, or you know, maybe that's even too much, you know, figuring out what that looks like. But that kind of makes you stop and think, am I celebrating the consumption? Am I just excited about it because I see it in the store and it's just brand new and shiny, right? Like there are so many things that can be going through our head in that moment that we lose it to impulse, and we're not actually being like rational, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in the store and you're not super duper excited about it in the store, you will not use it when you get home. You won't wear it, right? If you try it on in the dressing room and you're like, meh, but I'm going to buy it anyway, then it's going to be the meh in your closet, and you're going to go to the good old faithfuls that you wear every week, right?
So true. I have a pair of shoes right now that's that sort of thing, but sorry, go on.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We're like, no, I'm going to wear the ones that I know. Or like, these shoes are a little bit too tight, but we think when we get home that we're magically, our feet are going to fit perfectly into them. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's what I call the hell yes rule. It's either a hell yes or it's a no. If you're not super jazzed about it, you know, you don't have a space for it in your home that you think it's going to go. If you're not like, yes, I know exactly what pants I'm going to wear this with, or whatever it might be. If you have any sense of doubt, we have no right to buy that at that moment. Yeah.
Good rule.
I think they're really important rules to teach our kids as well. Like I know, because, you know, the life we've lived, I'll often say to the girls when they want to, usually the bright shiny object that they're impulsing over, it's kind of like, well, let's just walk away for a little bit and see if you can't stop thinking about it, and then we'll reconsider. But also saying the question to them, well, what value is this going to bring to your life? And they'll just go, Mum, it's going to bring me happiness, all right? But it's just that trying to get them to see what value is it going to bring to your life, so they can start from an early age to be more intentional and conscious with their spending choices.
Yeah. And that's a great point. You know, Mom, it's going to bring me happiness. And it's like, well, that's a big lesson. That stuff isn't going to make you happy, right?
Yeah.
More money is not going to make us happy. More stuff is not going to make us happy. There have been plenty of people who have done it and figured that out for us, right? Yeah. So we don't need to, we continue to follow in those footsteps for some reason and think, oh, well, it just didn't work out for them, but it will work out for me. But that's not the case. So it's okay to take a step back and reevaluate before we spend more money. So then later we feel the guilt of, oh, I spent a lot of money on this, so now I have to keep it. And it's like, no, let's just stop that spiral altogether from just that initial date of no purchasing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Such a vicious cycle.
I wonder how much online shopping for clothes and stuff has impacted like cluttering closets, because you don't even have to go to the store or the mall. You're just shopping online. But you know, obviously, you know, with fashion and stuff or clothes, I like to feel the material and see what it looks like on. I mean, you can read the labels, or it's made of 100% cotton or whatever. What I like, I'm all about the feel a lot of the times, not so much the look. I hate things that are itchy and scratchy and stuff. It's like, oh, I can't wear them. Yeah. But I guess online shopping, people just easier to hoard.
Oh yeah, and then the other side to that, they get it, they try it on at home, and they don't like it, and they put it in a pile and say, I'll get around to returning that, and then they never do. Right? Yeah. So
guilty of that.
Yeah. So then it just really keeps on going. And there are so many times that I've organized with women and men who so many clothes still have the tags on them. You know, it was just something we impulse bought. We thought it was really cute. It looked really great on that model online, because they're manipulating the heck out of all those clothes. Have you ever seen that? Like the pictures that they show, like the back of them, like it's not actually the way the clothes fit you. Never.
They're experts at that, aren't they?
They really are. Styling but that's where it's so important to be conscious of what marketing is doing to us.
Yes.
It really just comes back to that of they're trying to get you, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah,
and
that's a
they
great
can
point.
now because of digital, they
yeah,
can get
yeah, yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, you don't just see the dressed up mannequin in the mall. Like it's on your phone, it's on your laptop, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like when we get off this podcast, you're going to start getting advertisements for cotton clothes. You watch.
Bring it on. Like 100% organic cotton.
Facebook,
Thank you.
they know. Yeah, just Facebook, 100% organic.
Oh, I'm wearing some merino wool from Australia right now. Thank you. Bringing a bit of my culture into it.
I think we'll download an ad blocker when we're done with this, so then those don't pop up for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's another good tip. Control your spending. Put an ad blocker in.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you walk into someone's house, like a client, a homeowner. Like, where do you start? Like, are you hired to do the whole house, or you just start with the kitchen or the closet, or where do you start?
It definitely depends on the individual and what they're looking for help with. So I start all of my services with a virtual consultation. Low stakes. I'm not actually in their home, even though usually the first thing they say is like, "Don't judge. I'm not.
Isn't it funny
it's
how
messy."
to do that? Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not here to judge, and we're going to let go of that shame, right? We're not going to feel sorry for what we have. These are our homes. We want to treat them well. But on that consultation, that's where we dig more into the why and what it is that they're looking for help with. And sometimes people hire me, I'm just looking for my pantry to be done, or I'm just looking for my closet. And other times they're like, I just need help with everything. Please just come in and do it all. So when it's one of those do it all kind of projects, we start with something where we don't have any emotional attachment to. Typically, I do like to start with a pantry because we don't have emotional attachment to the expired food that we have.
True.
Right?
We know
So
it'll hurt
for the
us.
pantry, for the obviously you're not giving nutritional advice, like what type of food to keep. It's how much of the food, or how do you figure that out?
So it's more of going through and getting rid of all of the old and expired food. I've found things like, even from this past year, we found stuff from as old as like early 2000s.
Ooh.
And yummy. Add that to it.
Bit of mold festering, no
sauce
doubt.
I don't know if I wanted to open the old Pop-Tarts and things.
No.
But starting with those, just getting rid of those things, kind of that aha moment. Organizing product is not cheap, which is another reason we never start by buying product, because then we're going to overspend and we're going to waste money on that, right? Because we might not have actually needed as many bins once we get rid of the excess stuff.
Sure.
But it's amazing how much money we waste on old food and things, right?
Yeah.
So true.
Guilty again.
Yeah, it's so easy to happen, especially through the pandemic. We hoarded food because we got nervous. Things were flying off of the
Toilet
shelves, and if
paper.
how many attics are full of toilet paper or basements?
I don't know. I can't imagine. My husband did that. We had just bought a whole pack of toilet paper, and then he came home with another, and I said, no, we are returning that back to the store. We don't have a place to store it. We're not hoarding toilet paper.
I went the paper and towel route.
Yeah.
That's a plain food back up.
It's there. It's an option.
Yeah.
But it's first realizing the expired food that we have, because when we see it in all of these garbage bags of all this stuff that was wasted, right? It kind of gives us oh wow. And same thing when we see the bags of clothes leaving, oh wow, I overspent and I have a problem. Sometimes those light bulb moments are what we need as the thing to keep moving us forward. But we get rid of all of the excess food, all of the food that we've had that you're like, I don't even know why I bought that while I was at the store. I got, once again, marketing, right? And I saw it at that display and it looked really good, and I'm never going to eat flaxseed oil or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And then setting it up for what makes sense for what they have. So if they have a lot of really young kids and they need snack centers, then great. We set up things where it's easy to tell how much you have and what you have. So then you can shop your pantry and take a look at what you have there before you go to the store. So you don't end up buying, because if we don't do that, that's where we're like, oh, I forgot I had this already at home. And you bring it home. You're like, oh, I don't know if I have it or not. So that's a rule that I have. Is I make my shopping list, or really, okay, here's some insight into me. I don't cook. I am like, I survive. Like, that's, I will
baked beans and
yes. Yeah, so I'm very grateful.
Uh-huh.
My husband is like chef status. He's really, really great. So he makes the grocery list, and I double checked that whenever he puts it on the grocery list, I'm like, I think we might have that in the pantry. I'll double check and make sure. But then when we go to the store, if we can't remember if we have something at home or not, but it wasn't on the list, we do not buy it. We go back home. And if we didn't have it, great, we have to make another trip to the store. But that stops us from impulse buying and accidentally overspending and bringing in stuff that we didn't need, right? That happens a lot with spices. I'll organize with people and we have like 6 cinnamons because you went to the store and you forgot you already had them at home, right? So it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but it trains you to be way more intentional to make sure you're not doing that overspending or accidentally buying extra stuff when you're at the store.
Yeah. But when you go to Costco, you got to
that's
bulk
just
buy.
about to say,
I'm not going back to Costco.
No, you're
once a week.
anti-bulk buying.
Anti-bulk buy. But also,
no.
I do also recognize I don't have children right now.
Yeah.
So I understand when it comes to snacks and things later, then yes, that totally makes sense. And sometimes it's nice. But I think it's important too. It depends on the size of your house. We don't live in a large home. My husband and I have like a 1,500 square foot house. So I can't really buy in bulk because I don't have anywhere where I would put it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm more buying for what you need. I mean, we go to the grocery store at least once a week anyway, right? So it's like either I can take the 2 minutes down the road to go grab whatever it is that I need, or I can just kind of suck it up for the next week and just wait till we go to that next run that I can grab whatever it is that I needed.
Yeah. That's one reason I like online grocery shopping, because you've got the pantry there and you can run back and forth and check. So that's something that people can consider as well. I think it's an easy way to kind of control the impulse buying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for our pantry actually, because we don't have one, because our new house didn't come with one. So that's on the to-do list of the remodel of the kitchen. So the rest of our kitchen cupboards are just bursting with product and a mess.
It's on our list of things to do in the house.
Yeah.
But anyway, we want to move on in a minute and just hear some of your favorites about Raleigh. But before we do, new year, new life, new you. Tell us about what people can do to kickstart this off in an intentional way to declutter and organize. And I think you have a challenge too that you can talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to start off, I do have a free decluttering guide on my website. So when you go, it's just subscribing to my email list and it automatically goes to you of the steps that I take, what I take my clients through, questions that you can ask yourself. And then it has like a decluttering checklist too.
Great.
So making sure you don't miss any of the categories, that you go through everything. Set the boundary for yourself. That doesn't mean you have to do it in a weekend. Don't try to overwhelm. Be realistic. You know yourself. Find an accountability buddy. That sometimes is just what we need, is just a friend who's doing it along with you, or just someone there, right, to be like, hey, how's it going? So it doesn't turn into that thing on our to-do list that we don't touch it again. We don't want that. But yes, I do have a New Year challenge coming up. So it's through the month of January. Once again, do not put the pressure on yourself to have to feel like you have to do every single thing. It's there for our overachievers who want to do every day. Wonderful. But it just takes you through. It's 5 days each week. And every day is a different thing to take a look at. So like bathrooms are one day. Closet I broke down into actual clothes, and then like another day for shoes and another day for accessories. So it's not everything in one whole day. So it doesn't feel super overwhelming. But that's another thing. It's going to go out to the people who have subscribed to my email list.
Awesome.
I'll post a little bit more about it on social media too. And sometimes just seeing other people doing it, of like, oh, okay, I should get up and I should do that the day's work, right? Because everyone else has finished theirs. So sometimes that group mindset really helps and can help motivate everybody into, because it's all positive things. It's a great thing to see, be able to cheer each other on.
I think, as we've spoken on this podcast, it is, like, as we mentioned, an emotionally draining experience. So having that support network there is really important to help you get through it, I think.
Yeah. And it gets stronger, right? So decluttering, it's a muscle.
It is.
The more you do it, the more you let go. It doesn't necessarily get easier, because it still can be hard. Freedom isn't necessarily an easy thing, right? There's still hardships that come with it, but the more that you do it, the more you let go, it becomes a little bit less daunting every time, right? And that's why I feel confident with it, because I've done it so much.
Yes.
I'm at the point where I don't I don't let something go and then fear, oh, should I have gotten rid of that? Right.
Yep.
It's a mental strength. We get there.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I guess even like men in their sheds. Like there's probably how many tools are laying around that haven't been touched in 12 months.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And who parks their car in the garage these days? Anybody? Like they're just full of storage and stuff.
I know.
Like
I know. I feel like a hypocrite. So I can't park my car in the garage, but that's what my husband convinced me to do, a home gym. And so I'm like, okay, we have a gym.
Yeah, that's purpose.
Yes. But yeah, I fought him so hard on that. I was like, I have this whole garage and I can't even put my car in it.
I don't think anybody does, so don't feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, everyone's like, garages is full of whatever. But yeah, I guess,
Gosh,
like
there's so much more to
society,
talk
like
about
I
this.
guess the rise in storage places are just
It's
evidence
insane.
of the amount of accumulation that's going on in the
Oh,
world.
yeah.
Like
It's
that's
really
big
scary.
business.
That's I once again, I don't know that I should have written down more statistics and numbers. But I think it's somewhere like the average person spends like another mortgage on their storage units
Oh my
every
gosh.
month.
Really?
And it's
That's
just
insane.
for things, right? I think there are times and places for them. Like if you're moving
Yeah.
between spaces, like
Yeah.
and you have to, downsize for a moment before your house is ready or something. There are times for it, I think.
There are, yeah.
But how many times do people just have storage units and then they never go back and look at them?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important we came into this world with nothing
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to leave with nothing. You
Mhm.
can't take a U-Haul to heaven with you.
No.
Like,
No. I guess
we're just leaving it behind for future generations to have to figure out or, something. So I think it's so important to get a handle on what we have and avoid spending even more money on having to then store it somewhere else.
Yeah. I think for people to realize that you're all who you have and that's okay. You can be safe in that. Like we've known over the years from the travel and, we're used to letting things go and we're used to saying goodbye to people and all of this. And you realize that it feels like you're losing something in the moment. In some aspects, if you're saying goodbye to a friend, you are. But you realize that you're okay. Like you get over it and you're okay and you never really needed any of this stuff. Like all you need is yourself. But
Yeah.
it's so hard to come to that
I know.
place for people to let go of the fear, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can get there, but it just takes a lot of that practice and that time and that realization and remembering you're resilient and
Mhm.
you're strong. We're capable of doing difficult things.
Absolutely. And having the help along the way with what you offer too is really invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, time to free up the space and let in
Yes.
the chi and open up
It feels good.
the energy.
I
the
feel
freeing
good just
energy.
talking about it. I feel
Oh,
free.
man.
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
go home and clean the garage and the car. and do
Sort
all
out
the
your work
things.
tools,
Do all
please.
my work. I'm using my work tools right now. I'm building a fire pit. Oh dear, it's hilarious. But yeah, clutter's everywhere. I mean, even I guess toxic people. I mean,
Oh gosh, that's
like-
another element.
We could do a
to talk
whole
about.
other podcast
I
on
mean,
that.
you said you're not a therapist, but like, hello, toxic people.
Yeah. No, but really decluttering toxic relationships from your life.
it's-
And it's, absolutely.
mm.
That's a whole other level to
I'll have to
just,
get you back for planned podcast
The next,
episode.
the
B.
scaling of the Hello Clutter, the next level. I'll help you eliminate toxic people from
Yeah.
life.
Toxic people.
We go from the pantry to the toxic people.
Yes.
Choose
very
your
subtle
level.
jump.
the friends list, the workplace list, like all of the above. Where do you
Yeah.
stop?
Yeah.
All right. So want to get in some fun,
Yeah,
and
some
Raleigh
fun Raleigh.
questions?
Yeah.
I mean, Caroline probably knows, but I don't know. Where did you grow up, and where in Raleigh area are you based roughly?
So I'm actually not from North Carolina. I'm from upstate New York originally,
Mhm.
but I've been in Raleigh since college. So I went to NC State and then stayed here
Wolfpacker.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I've been here for over 10 years, and I just love Raleigh. I always
Okay.
thought all of my friends moved away after school and went to, bigger cities, to the Seattles and to the DCs and to the Nashvilles. And I was like, I'm going to hold down the fort until everyone wants to come back to me and start
Yeah.
families and
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
So,
yeah, there you go.
but yeah, my husband and I actually live in Apex,
Mhm.
but love Raleigh and the whole surrounding
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, and they all just kind of like Raleigh, Apex, Carey, it all just feels the same to me. It's just kind of one area that we get to access and enjoy. Like it's 20 minutes to anywhere. It's
Exactly.
great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So if you got a friend or a family member coming into town, where are you taking them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the Raleigh area
Okay.
or Apex?
Yeah, in the general vicinity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with dinner because I actually have a friend coming into town on
there you go.
Thursday and
Yeah.
we're taking him here. Salem Street Pub in Apex.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
we've been
we've been
there.
there.
The
Yeah.
moonshine.
So
The
good.
moonshine.
The moonshine is what we're here for.
Ah, you hear that?
I was going to say
Get
they're
your moonshine.
burgers, but their moonshine is great too.
Priorities, like, come on.
So good. Yeah, so I do. I love Salem Street Pub. That's so close to in downtown Apex. I just love the feel. It has like the cute small town feel, whereas like
It
Raleigh's
does.
like more of the city feel,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So that's great. And I'm trying to think of more Raleigh focused places too.
If it's Apex, feel free to share
That's
that.
fine.
Yeah.
It's all about Wake County and the Triangle.
Mhm.
It's all good.
There is. Oh, it's gonna irritate. I should have written down the name of it before this. There is an amazing Asian restaurant in downtown Raleigh as well that I love so much. Oh, I'm about to like Google
not
Asian
Garland?
food near me.
Is it the Garland?
No.
Or what type of Asian?
It used to be a food truck and then
Mofu.
Mofu
I
shop.
love Mofu.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We know that place.
Yes.
So good.
Good choice.
Because they were on that TV show originally, weren't they?
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's where we had like randomly started binging. It's like the food truck race or something. And then we looked it up. They said Raleigh, and we looked it up and found out they had like a brick and mortar. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
okay, so good. So yeah, I love Mofu Shop. And for like breakfast places, I'd say once I'm going to go downtown Apex again, Mission Market is great.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Didn't know about that for breakfast. Good.
Yeah, they
No,
have.
we've had coffee there.
You guys have just been everywhere.
And
Now I
they
want to
have
like
the,
find a deep track that you haven't gone to yet.
They have the acai bowls that Clara likes.
Yes.
That place. That's
Oh,
the place
do
I'm
they?
thinking of.
I don't know. I don't remember
Yeah,
having
yeah,
breakfast there. Anyway.
Yeah, Mission Market.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have that good avocado toast.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Ah,
Yeah.
Avo on
We
toast.
like our
Breakfast.
Avo
Smashed
toast.
Avo. Oh, there you go. Go Apex. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And what are
Awesome.
you doing with your friend apart from food? What else would you show them in the area that you think is worth checking out that you love?
I love downtown Cary,
Mhm.
their theater.
Oh,
They do a lot
yeah.
of fun, like especially around Christmas time. They do like fun little dance and sing along kind of things. So with
Mhm.
families, that's really cool. So love that. I love ice cream.
Mhm.
So even though it's going to be cold, I always will go get ice cream somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
I love Mama Birds in Morrisville.
Hmm.
That's
Writing that
one,
one
or
down.
they might actually be in. I think they used to be downtown. Maybe it's Holly Springs
Okay.
in that general area.
Haven't been to that one.
Mhm.
So good, so good. And her husband's like a fireman, and I think she was just doing it on the side. I don't know if that changed with the pandemic, but so good. Fresh local ice cream, another amazing one.
Yep.
So we'll probably go get ice cream at some point.
They're always lined up the door there.
Oh my
Like, it's
gosh,
a,
always. Yeah.
gold mine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I'm also very much so a homebody. So anytime that I can like order food in or just like go and grab something fun to do and then bring it home, we'll probably do like making a gingerbread house or
Oh
something.
yeah, we
fun
did
and
that this
silly.
week with the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be fun, but lots of love the greenways and like
Yeah.
walking around Lake Johnson or
Yeah.
like Apex Nature Park, something outdoors whenever we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Cool.
going to ask, what's your favorite thing about living in the Raleigh area? Like,
Yeah, I'd say that. I think you get the awesome city feeling because it is a big city. I think I kind of forget that sometimes.
yeah.
And then also just the small town feel of like you have your friends, you have your community, and you get a little bit of everything. And I loved NC State because I like being a little fish in a big pond. Like I like kind of being able to fly under the radar at times, but then also like I have a wonderful community and a great place for me to be able to connect with potential clients and things. So I think it just gives you everything you need in one.
It does.
Yeah.
I agree. That's what we love about it.
Least favorite thing about living in Raleigh? Anything that annoys you, bothers you, wish didn't exist, could get better?
Okay.